I'll be right back. Just gotta run and do something real quick. Good afternoon, everybody. Test, test, test. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, man.
Cool. Give a couple minutes for people to join and then we'll get started. Amberlyn, I really like your neon. That is really cool.
Thank you.
Is that actual neon or is it like a diffused like LED strip?
I believe it's neon. That's what it was listed as.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
So this is a little unusual. I was looking at the stuff that y'all have covered so far, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you started to look a little bit at JavaScript. Is that correct? Okay, this is new. This is new for me because usually I'm the gatekeeper between students, HTML and CSS, and then they then after the week with me, they jump over to JavaScript. So this is pretty cool because y'all kind of had a taste of JavaScript. I'm really interested to hear what initial thoughts. You've sat with it for about a week. I looked at some of the stuff that that Max had on the GitHub. Anybody want to share their impressions so far, their thoughts so far? Did anybody play with it over the weekend? Hack on it a little bit?
I play with it. I don't know about the fun part though.
What? I mean, come on, coming from HTML and CSS, it's gotta be marginally better.
Dude, honestly, I love HTML and CSS. I think that's, but with practice comes consistency. So just one step at a time, you know.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
It's like going from Android to Apple.
See, it's the opposite for me. HTML is like my alpha. Like I can deal with that. JavaScript, man. Like,
Yeah, it definitely feels like the HTML and CSS is very structured. There's rules, there's a very specific way that you construct things. JavaScript's kind of the Wild West. You can compose things pretty much however you want.
To
Okay,
be
well,
honest, I think
go ahead.
I'm picking up JavaScript a lot better than the last few weeks of HTML, but I did miss a couple classes, so that's probably why I was a little wonky, but I was actually happy to start a new module.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I've been a professional software developer for a while. I don't really use HTML and CSS a whole lot, but then again, I don't do front end work.
But like, isn't it pretty foundational? Like you
Yeah.
pretty much use that in most of your code, so.
Yeah, I mean, any kind of markup language, and there's several types of markup languages, but any kind of markup language, you know, as a programmer, you're really just learning the rules. There's at some point, and I'll kind of call Latonia to back me up here, but you know, at some point, you're kind of just learning the rules of the game, and it doesn't really matter if you're dealing. It doesn't matter so much what language you're dealing with. The rules are somewhat similar. What do you think about that statement, Latonia? Does that sound fair?
It does, yeah. Yep. Can I just throw a plug in? So I DM'd a couple people because I'm doing attendance and I don't know your name. So if folks can check their chats, thanks.
Cool. So let's go ahead and get started. The last thing I want to do is just before we jump into it, again, I know everybody has had a chance to say a little bit about JavaScript, but does anybody have any questions before we jump into what we're working on for the next week? All right. So let me grab some slides and we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and paste this here into Zoom chat. If you want to follow along on your machine, you don't necessarily have to stare at mine, although I'm about to screen share here in a second if you want to just sit back and watch. But these slides, we're going to use these for the entire week. These are kind of your reference notes, so don't feel like you need to be taking a bunch of notes. Everything that we cover this week, you can go back and reference the slides and see what I'm talking about. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. Cool. Right, so we are in week 6. This is the DevOps module. You're going to see me a grand total of 2 times. You're going to see me, obviously now I'm going to get you started on a little bit of DevOps stuff, and then you're going to see me one more time. You're going to see me right before you graduate, and I'm going to be helping you again with taking your graduation capstone project and doing some fun stuff with it. So really, you're gonna see me just twice over the course of this program. A little bit about me: I'm one of the guest instructors. I am not in New York. I'm the one instructor that's way over in Montana. I used to work for a company over in Syracuse. That's kind of how I got networked with all of you and started to get involved in the community there. I currently work at Datadog. If you've ever heard of that, it's just a metrics company. And my background is in software development, just like all of you. But I have a focus on DevOps and site reliability engineering, which is just a fancy way of saying that I deal with a lot of the infrastructure and computers that run the software. In addition to writing some of the code. And then my colleague, my teaching assistant, Latonia, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm sorry. I was trying to get people's names in here. Hi, everyone. My name is Latonia Matrice. Usually people just call me by my first name, Latonia. I actually have a small business that I'm trying to get up. I do software engineering. Right now I'm doing dev shop work, and I graduated with the second cohort of careers in code. So yeah, I've been TAing ever since. I really enjoy coming here, meeting you all. So hoping we'll have a great module.
I gotta stop for a second, Latonia. I see on here that you have an FAA Part 107 pilot license.
Oh yeah, I
hopeful.
forgot. Yeah. So I've been studying my Fatuta off, trying to get this Part 107 license. I'll be a licensed drone pilot. It's a lot. They make you learn like all of that, plus also a bunch of man pilot stuff, because there's so much overlap. So that's part of my business, is that I'll be offering the aerial drone photography and videography. I already have drones. If you want to fly them commercially, you have to be licensed. So wish me luck. I've been doing really good on the practice test. So I should be good to go after this month. I should be official. We'll see.
That's really, really cool.
Thanks.
It's really cool. All right, so it's just a little bit about us. Now let's go ahead and turn it over to and talk a little bit about DevOps. So every time I say DevOps, I kind of cringe a little bit because it's one of those marketing kind of marketing terms. It's definitely overused. Like everybody sort of thinks DevOps is something different. Like in the olden days of DevOps, it was kind of sort of the new replacement for the IT departments, like the traditional IT departments. Like kind of think back to some of the companies that you might have seen that kind of have sort of the old IT, or the folks that come over and install the antivirus on your laptop. So DevOps is kind of supposed to be the shiny new replacement for IT, but that really was not what it was intended to be. So DevOps kind of gets used a lot for sales and marketing. It's just sort of a kind of a catch-all term for a lot of stuff. Really what you can think of though is that it's the marriage of two types of disciplines. It's the marriage of development, which is what all of you have been working on for the past five weeks. It's the marriage of development and then this discipline we call operations, which again kind of muddies the water with IT, where IT is interested in infrastructure and servers and maintaining networking and that sort of stuff. But so it's the marriage of these two ideas, and the idea, the big philosophy is, instead of having software developers that only know how to write code and having IT that only knows how to manage computers, let's take the two of them and not have these silos. Let's not have these two groups of people that aren't really talking to each other, or if they are talking to each other, just kind of chucking things over the wall at each other. Instead, taking those two and trying to bridge the gap and kind of getting everybody on the same page. So software developers know a little bit about ops, and ops, and vice versa, ops knows a bit about software development. So on this page, there's just a bunch of tools that you might see kind of referenced when we talk about DevOps, but really just to kind of give a couple concrete examples. When we say software development, of course we're talking about writing code, but that also falls into other categories like if your website has an issue, a common development task is to go and fix a bug, or fix a typo, or upgrade dependencies, or those kinds of software development tasks. Writing new JavaScript, that sort of thing. Testing your code, and then some of the operations side of things is, again, I've mentioned this before, handling the actual computers. But in addition to that, understanding how much things are going to cost, how what the monthly spend for all of the servers that power your website, what that would look like, and how we actually get the code onto those servers. So we're gonna kind of broaden our horizons this week and talk a little bit about talk a little bit about this operations side in addition to some of the software development. So why should you care? Well, there's kind of a couple of groups of people that I want to be talking to this week. There's going to be a group of folks that after you get done with this program, there's going to be a group of folks that go and work at a big company. For that group of folks, operations really isn't too big of a deal because if you go and join a big company, you graduate from careers in code, you go and get a job at a big company. Big companies will probably have their own processes for how they release software and how they deploy code. They'll kind of have some of this DevOps stuff already figured out, and your job will just be to learn whatever it is that the big company does and just abide by those rules. So this week, depending on where you end up going after you graduate, this week may or may not be totally valuable to you if you work for a big company. Now, if you, on the other end of the spectrum, if you are the kind of person that after you graduate, you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to go start your own company, you want to work on your own ideas, you don't have the luxury of a traditional IT department, you don't have the luxury of networking and sysadmin experts and all these folks that know how to maintain computers for you. If you're that kind of entrepreneurial person, this week will be very important for you because I'm going to teach you how to do all of that stuff yourself. Somewhere in the middle, startups, kind of small, might not have a fully fledged IT department. You'll kind of need to know a bit about what we're talking about this week. All right. So just a couple of things on the outline. So we're going to cover this week. Basically, so you have a portfolio that you are working on, not last week because you're doing JavaScript, but the week before when you're dealing with index.html and CSS. You had a working website when you're tinkering with that with Max. So what I want to do is I want to show you how to take that and take that website that you were working on with Max. I want to show you how to take that and get it on the internet so that when you are ready to take your portfolio, or if you already have one, if you've already started working on one, so that you can get websites that you want to deploy in front of customers, in front of family, in front of friends, basically get it on your laptop, take it from your laptop and get it on the internet so you can share it with other people. So that's going to kind of be the main focus of this week. Along the way, we're going to do a bit of troubleshooting because of course there's all sorts of stuff that you need to know when you're getting things online and getting it in front of customers. But then there's going to be kind of a small component of teaching you how to back up your code and share it with other developers. So that's kind of the goal that we have. There's not a lot of coursework in Canvas for you to do. Really, the goal for this week is just to get one functioning website up and running. Any questions about that?
Is it going to be a specific type of website, or we can pick something, or how's that going to go?
I'm going to let you pick. So I'm just curious, just polling the class, how many folks have already started on a portfolio website for yourself, for your personal brand? Anybody?
We kind of all did as a project.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, pretty much all did in class.
Okay, great. So, great. Use that. That's what we're going to use this week. If for some reason you don't have one, then we will fall back. We will fall back to using the HTML and CSS that were in the example portfolio, and I have links to that, so you can grab that code if you need it. Okay. Other questions, thoughts? All right. Let's jump into it. So the first thing that I'm going to introduce you to is called Git. And we're going to do at first what looks like simply backing up files. This is going to be reminiscent of like Dropbox, Google Drive. It's going to look kind of similar to that. So we're actually going to start deploying our website through the lens of backing up our code. And it might kind of seem like a little strange that we're going to back up our code in order to deploy, but just bear with me. It'll all make sense here in a minute. So I'm going to introduce you to Git, and the first question is, what is Git? Well, Git is a tool that lets us store our code. It's not meant for non-technical people, to be perfectly blunt. It's really meant for software developers. It's a tool that lets us make sure that as we're working on code, we're able to save our changes. And then in addition to that, it also lets us do some other really cool stuff like sharing our code with other developers. And I'll show you what I mean here in a second. But Git lets us save our code and then be able to reference it later. There is a website that I have linked here on the slides on slide 11. You can go and download it. You don't need to do that because by default, your Macs all come with a version of Git installed that we're going to use. But Git is the tool that we're going to use. And again, the correlation here is Git is kind of one of these programs just like OneDrive and Dropbox and Google Drive, but it's tailored exclusively for software developers. Now there's a distinction between Git and some of these other websites that are on the screen. Has anybody ever heard of GitHub or GitLab? I didn't realize I was actually wearing my GitLab t-shirt today. It's just a coincidence.
Yeah, we have a Git.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, we have a GitHub that our code gets uploaded, like Max uploads our code into all the time. And I think a lot of us probably knew about it beforehand.
Cool, yeah. So you've been using GitHub. Well, Max has been sharing the example code that he's been working on through GitHub. So I think everybody kind of has a working knowledge of what GitHub does. It's kind of a place to store and view code. GitHub is just so happens to be one of the most popular websites for Git. So I want to just point out a distinction here. Git is the program. A good analogy here is like email. Git is to email as GitHub is to Gmail. So, when you talk about email, sometimes you will say, well, I'll just, send you a Gmail or something. Well, technically Gmail is just a provider for email. Well, it's the same thing with these companies. The underlying technology is Git. Each of these websites just allows you to use the program Git with it. So if you learn how to use Git, you can use GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, Gitee. There's any number of websites that will allow you to push and upload your code using Git. But again, just so happens like the market share winner by far is GitHub. So that's what we're going to use this week. Okay, so real quick, I'm going to just, for the folks that haven't messed around with GitHub, I'm just going to show it off really quick. And I'm actually going to do it using the code base that you have been looking at with Max. So this should be familiar to some folks if you've already gone up here, but I'll paste the link here if you want to come check this out and navigate along with me. You can find the chat. So this is where I am at right now. You can see that on this screen, there's just a number of folders here. So week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. This file structure matches the same sort of file structure that you have on your computer, on your Mac. So similar to how you have folders on your Mac, the same thing that you'll see on this page. This is a file hierarchy. So we're able to navigate through these folders and explore the code here in Careers in Code cohort 5. So this page is just think of this page as being a living representation of a folder in the cloud, so on GitHub. And if we click into week 4, we'll see that there's some more folders in here. I'm going to go click down into D4 portfolio index.html. I'm just going to pick a random file here. And sure enough, here's all the code that Max put up for week 4, day 4 portfolio. And we can see all the HTML here. So this is all really geared towards programmers. It has a lot of tools here over on the side for you to be able to quickly navigate through the files in this project. If you were wanting to wholesale copy and paste some code from this, you could obviously you copy paste down here, but there's some tools over here that let you look at, say, for example, the raw text in this file. So there's lots of stuff here. This is all oriented towards software developers. This is going to be, well, this is what software developers use day in and day out. So I'm going to teach you how to use GitHub effectively, Git and GitHub effectively. Some other kind of cool things that I want to point out. So notice up here that Hack Upstate. There's a Hack Upstate account, and then there's a Careers in Code cohort 5. So this Careers in Code cohort 5, this is just one of the many projects that Hack Upstate owns. So we can go and click on Hack Upstate, and we can see that there's a bunch of what are called repositories. You can use the word repositories. There's going to be a lot of new terms I'm going to throw at you, but you can use the words project, repositories interchangeably. This just means that there's all of these different folders that are attached to this Hack Upstate account on GitHub. That Careers in Code cohort 5, that was just one folder. There's other bits of code, like for example, the website that the careersincode.org website. That's another folder on this account. So you can see here, Hack Upstate also has this careersincode.org folder. And if we wanted to go and look at some code, we could jump in. There's going to be, this looks like it was written in React. I'm not sure if there's an index.html here. But either way, on GitHub, everything is organized by an account. And then for each account on GitHub, you could have as many of these special folders or projects attached to that account. Some other things that you could do on github.com before we start digging into the nitty gritty of how to use GitHub. Some other cool things you could do is if you find some code that you think is particularly cool, you could go up here and star it. And that just effectively bookmarks it. And that will put it in a list that you can go and reference later. Under your account, you can look up your stars. It's really just a fancy way of saying bookmarks. So if you ever see something that you want to go back and check on later on GitHub or something that you think is cool, feel free to star it. And then the last thing I want to point out for the folks that are that think that GitHub is kind of neat and want to check out some other code that is being actively developed by other people in real time, there's this tab for Explore. I encourage you to check it out. This just shows all of the kind of trending projects going on right now on GitHub. For example, I work on Datadog, so it's suggesting a project called Datadog Pi, some Python code for Datadog. But there's other stuff. So this is sort of like a Facebook feed almost. It's just sort of the latest stuff that people are working on GitHub. And the more you star things, the more it will tailor recommendations to you. So it's just kind of a quick overview of at the surface level of what you could find on github.com. Any questions so far? It's thrown a lot at you. All right. I'm gonna try to use the Git specific terminology here. So if I say some words that that I haven't clearly explained, please feel free to call me out and ask me to explain them. But remember, repository is those special projects, those special folders that we see that can be attached to users on github.com. They're the special folders that you can create and upload things to on GitHub. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new repository, a new folder, a new location, and we're going to upload our portfolio. So the first thing, obviously, the first thing that we have to do is we have to go and sign up on github.com. I don't have any rules for like pick whatever username you want. I will encourage you, if you can, try to get a cool GitHub username because you are judged by it later on in life professionally by how cool it is. I was like I was a young man when I made mine, so I've got like the gamer1 in my username. So please don't do that. Please don't pick that. It really doesn't make you look cool.
I was going to ask if you were joking, Nathan.
Yeah, I'm being completely sarcastic. Like you could definitely pick something professional. It's a good look.
Now, is this their base? Is this their personal one from which all of the project ones will be created? So they should maybe try to get their name or no?
Yeah, exactly. If you can try to get your name, if nobody's taken it, if you can't get your name, you could tack a 1 at the end or something. Alternatively, if you can't get your name, you can do something like first name dot last name. That's also a good one. But just give you a couple minutes to go and create a github.com account. Once you've got a github.com account and you're signed in and you go to github.com, you should see something that looks kind of like this. You should see a screen that kind of looks similar to this. You might not have as much stuff on here as I do, but you should at least be signed in, and that badge over on the right should have you logged in. All right, and then I've got a Google Sheet here that I'm going to share a link out in chat. We do get actually, I don't want to lie. Latonia, do you know if we have the education pack this year?
I was just thinking they used to have them. I don't know. I can check.
Okay. Usually there is an education pack and it has a bunch of cool stuff in it, like promos and discounts and all that sort of stuff. And I think that you can still get it even if you're not affiliated with a program. But I will, if Latonia is able to find something, then that would be great. If she isn't able to, I can look it up too.
Apologies on that. So I got a response and apparently there aren't any yet in this cohort. So there aren't any. I don't know if some will come.
All right, so when you've gotten your GitHub account, what I'd like you to do is I push a link in the Zoom chat, and I'd like you to open up that link. And what I'd like for you to do is put your name and then your GitHub username on this list. And to get your GitHub username, if you've already forgotten it, forgotten the really cool username that you've picked, you can, when you're signed into GitHub, up in the top right, when you click on your icon, it'll say signed in as X, Y, and Z. That's your username. Nice. That's a good one, Kitty. Nice. A lot of people are able to get their full name. Yeah, I'm gonna grab my link too. Post it. Yeah, it looks like we're getting close to everybody having a GitHub account. Let's let's go
Nathan,
ahead.
can you put the last slide back up? I want to make sure I switched it over like the instructions were saying. Thank you.
All right, and then we're gonna go through these next steps, and I'm going to show you how to create a new repository. So now that you've got a GitHub account, we're going to create a special folder on github.com to hold our portfolio code. You've already got countless folders on your Mac, right? Desktop and wherever you've been working on your code locally with VS Code. So you've got countless folders on your computer. We're going to create a folder up on GitHub. Again, these folders are really called repositories. So let's go and create one of those repositories to hold our portfolio code. To do that, up here in the top right where your username is, up here in the top right, there's a plus icon. Click on the plus icon, click on new repository. If you didn't see that, this is the link to get to the page that I'm currently on. And when you clicked on this, you probably saw this, your name hydrated in this owner box here. So it should say your username / and then a blank repository name. Now here is, I need everybody to follow along with me because if we accidentally make typos or we enter this in wrong, we'll kind of shoot ourselves in the foot a little bit. So the name for the repository needs to be your username .github.io. So it should have whatever is over here on the left in the username box, should have that username .github.io. So just as an example, I'm going to go draw on somebody over here. So I'm going to pick on Shannon. So for Shannon, your username is Shannon Allen 883. Yours would be Shannon Allen 883.github.io. What would be your new repository name?
So I had a GitHub account from before, so I already had that repository on there on the same name. Should I make a different one or should I just use that one because it's unused actually?
So do you have a repository already created that is of this format, username.github.io?
That's what it says. That's my. If you go on my account, you can see it probably. It's the real Guggen. They're right there. Right, that one right there.
This is not the same.
Okay.
It would be realgungan96.github.io.
All right, all done. Try to make it because it wasn't letting me do it. All right, let's see.
So it's your username.github.io. And then the description, you can really call this whatever you want, but we're going to use this for our portfolio. So you can just say something like, this is my portfolio, or whatever you want to call it. And then we're going to switch this to public. This is entirely up to you, but I would encourage you for this class to just make this repository public. And what this means is that everybody can see your code. If you switch it to private, it's going to be a little hard for me to help if you run into any issues. So I'd encourage you to make this public. When you're making repositories on your own, or you're working on a project with friends, you can switch it to private and invite other people to work on it. But again, for this class, just set it to public for now.
Hey, Nate.
Yep.
Someone has a question. Shannon wants to know, how would you delete one? She created two. So I think it'd be nice for them to go through and just see how to delete a repo if they needed to.
Sure, yeah. So I'm gonna make something bogus. My bogus repo. So if you have a repo that that you don't want any longer, there is once you have created the repository, you can go to settings and then scroll all the way down on the page. There's this danger zone here and click delete this repository. It should be kind of the last thing that you see on the page. And then I want to delete. And then it will ask you to type in the name of the repo, and I'm just gonna paste that in. And oops. There we go. Now it's deleted. So that's how you would delete a repo. And I believe there's a slide. I believe there's a slide that shows you how to do that too.
Nate, and can I just add like a tip for them? This is something that I tend to do when I have a new repo. Once I'm ready, I'll go through and I'll add some tags to it. It's really simple to do. It takes you just a couple seconds. So that would be in addition to your description. And then there's a place where you can put like a preview image on your repo. So when people, stumble across it on the web or what have you, they'll see something that gives them an indication of what they're looking for. I recommend that you all do that, just like as a baseline for your different repos.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's create this and then let's add some tags like Latonia is describing. So once you've got this filled out, you got a description, you've ensured that it's set to public. The next important box to check and to click is this add a README file. So make sure that that is checked. Then you can ignore the other two boxes here and just click create repository. You're all set. I'm just going to go for a second. If you've done this, great. Just leave the screen as is, stay on that page. If for some reason you were to not create with a README, so let me show what that looks like. So by accident, I'm going to not click this add a README file and just hit create repository. Notice how my screen looks totally different. So this is what you get if you make sure that that box is checked, create a README file. This is the screen that you get when you check that box. If you don't check that box, you get a totally different screen. And there's a bunch of instructions that you need to follow in order to create the first file in this repository. I don't want you to have to deal with this. This gets really complicated and you have to run all these commands in the terminal. So if you forgot to check that box, or maybe you kind of jumped ahead and didn't click that box, the easiest thing to do is to go into settings and just nuke this, this repo and recreate it. So I'm going to just delete this one. And then I would go back and just create a new repository, making sure that I check that add a README file. Okay, and I actually didn't look at the chat. So there's a couple people that did what I described, and that's totally fine. Take a second. If you didn't check that box, just go ahead and go to settings, delete that repository, hop back and create it, ensuring that you click that add a README file. Once you've got that, once you've got this repository created, grab the URL, throw it over here inside of the GitHub link. A couple of people have already gotten theirs. That's great. Gonna spot check a couple of these. Very cool. Very cool. Nice, you already have a GitHub Pages link. Very nice. To clarify, these are links to the repository. Ray, do you mind adding your stuff to this sheet? In fact, I will go ahead and start filling out a entry for you. Jones. And then your GitHub username ended up being that.
So I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, what am I putting? Like, did I do something like wrong? I'm not following right now what we're doing. Sorry.
Yeah, so right now what we're doing is we're creating our first repository. And it should have this format for the repository name. Let me go and take a peek at your GitHub and see where you're at. So you have created, yeah, you're right on point. So you've got a repository created. You named it correctly. The only thing that I'm asking people to do is to come in here and put a link to their repository. But I updated yours, so you're all set.
Thank you.
Yep. Monty graciously giving people room on the spreadsheet. I'm going to go ahead and bring you in with everybody else. And then going to pick out a couple of people. Asma, were you able to create a repository?
I'm creating it right now. I'm just following along.
Did you do you mind pasting a link to your GitHub username?
Yeah, sure thing.
Danny, let me see. Yeah, you've made one correctly. You're doing great.
I'm just double checking. Did you see Shannon's question? Did you check hers? Does she look okay?
Let's see. So you have, yep, it looks great. It's your name, then your name.github.io. Yeah, it looks great. Great job. What size font is that? Size 2 font, man. Okay. So that is that's your first repository. Congratulations. Welcome to GitHub. You created your first repository. All right, let's actually do something with it. So so let's upload your code from the portfolio that you already have, the files that you're already working on. Let's get those files and let's upload them to GitHub. I'm going to show you two ways of doing this. The first way of uploading files to GitHub, I'm going to call the beginners method. This is really just to just for your own knowledge. we're going to quickly abandon this approach because there's better ways of uploading files, but I just want to show you how dead simple it can be to upload things to GitHub. So let's go and open up our repository. So that github.io. To get to this page, if you navigated away or you've lost this, to get to this repository, the special folder on GitHub, you can always go up to the top right, click on your icon, click on your repositories. And then from there, there should be a list of repositories, and just click on it. That should take you back to a screen that looks something like what you see on mine. So from this screen, we're going to upload our files. Now, the portfolio code that you have on your computer, I don't know where you put it, so you'll need to go and find it. The files for my portfolio, they are in, let's see. So your screen is not like this. Natasha, what do you mean? Are you not able to find your repository?
I don't know if it's like a background color thing, but mine looks black. You have a white screen to the black one.
Oh, you have a dark mode turned on?
Yes. Yeah. Let me check my screen.
Yeah, the colors might be inverted. I don't really know how. Does anybody know how you toggle themes on GitHub? Under settings. You think it's under settings, appearance?
Do you mind if I
Appearance.
share screen just to make sure I'm on the right screen?
Absolutely, go for it.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah, looks great. Question.
Really?
Yeah, you're on the right. This is the right page. Yeah.
It does not look anything like yours. I'm in the right place.
Nope, you're absolutely on the right page. Let me stop your share and show you my screen.
But what am I gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, if y'all like a dark theme, I'll join the party. Here, let me switch over to my repositories. Does this look a little bit more like everybody else's? Cool. All right, so let's upload some files. Let's actually get some files uploaded to our portfolio, to our repository. So navigate in Finder to wherever your files are at. So we're looking for the index.html and the CSS that you have for your portfolio. I'm going to use the latest code from what y'all worked on in week 4, day 4. So I'm going to grab all of this, these files. So the index.html, the style.css, and this weather.html. I'm going to grab all of those, get these side by side. So I've got my Finder window here, and I've got my GitHub right here. And then all I'm going to do is take those files and drag and drop. And this upload screen will show up.
How do you select
And it
more than
will
one file at a time?
say what?
How did you get all 3 files on there? Like it's only letting me select one at a time.
So you've got Finder up on the left and GitHub on the right. So you can drag and select in Finder, kind of like the desktop on Windows. Or if you click in this window, you can hit Command A on your keyboard, and that will select everything. Or you can click on a file and then hold shift and click on another file.
If you back out of the day, like actual file, you can actually drag and drop that into there too.
So go up one level and then drag the folder. Is that what you're saying? Do not drag
Yeah,
the
it'll
folder.
drop. Don't drag the folder.
Don't drag the folder. And the reason why is because GitHub is acting like a folder already. Your repository is a folder. And so if we put a folder inside of a folder, we will GitHub that's totally fine to do with GitHub, but because we're going to deploy this website, get it out on the internet, one of the things that GitHub does is it looks at the top level of that folder for any file called index.html. So if you have index.html nested inside of a folder on your GitHub repo, it won't find it and then it won't deploy it. Don't grab the folder and drag the folder in. Go in, find the files, drag the files over. Thank you for calling that out.
Ours just looks a little different from yours because it's
Even if they my bad.
sorry, go ahead.
No, like even if they separate it, still just go in individually and select all of them.
Yes, you want what you're uploading to GitHub, you want those to be the individual files, index.html, style.css, whatever your index, whatever your portfolio looks like. I think somebody else was mentioning that theirs looks a little bit different. Totally, you can have completely different files. I didn't work on portfolio code with y'all 2 weeks ago, so my code's going to look different.
Max has us do them in columns.
Oh, like the Finder windows and columns. I was going to do columns, but I feel like it's harder to see on my screen, so I switched to the big icons.
What about the images folder? Should we just add that like that?
Yeah, feel free to grab the images too. I'm not telling you that you can't upload images, but what I'm worried about is uploading a folder that contains all the stuff into GitHub.
Okay. All right.
So when you drag and drop, you should see that those files have uploaded to this page, and then it's going to ask you to commit some changes.
Hey,
So what this
Nadine.
is, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you just jump back to, well, if this is gonna lose where you are, don't do it just yet, but somebody wants to know how you get from main back to their repo. I just want to make sure they understand how to do that.
Oh, yeah. Yep, we can do that. I'll just leave this open for a second. So let's say that I'm completely lost. I don't know how to get to this page that I'm sharing right now. To get to where I'm at, type in inside of a browser, type in github.com. And then up in the top right, click on your icon, go to your repositories. Find your repo. So we named our repo username.github.io. So click on that. And then take whatever files you currently have for your portfolio website and drag them onto that screen. And you'll be where I'm at. Cool. So this is not Dropbox. This is not Google Drive. This is not meant for non-software developers. This is meant for software developers. And so one of the features here is that every time you upload files, you have the opportunity to describe what it is you're uploading. Right now, what are we doing? We are really just uploading the portfolio code that we have. So when GitHub asks you to commit changes and it gives you these text boxes, there's a short text box and a long text box. You can kind of ignore the long text box and just focus on the short text box here. But this is going to give you an opportunity to just describe what it is that you're doing. This will make more sense later on when we're uploading changes like fixing bugs or writing tests or adding new functionality to our website. So then we will call those things out and we'll add descriptions when we do those sorts of things. But right now, we can put anything we want in this box. It's really just for our own benefit. And what you can say in this box is completely up to you. For me, I'm going to say something along the lines of initial upload for my portfolio files. There is not really a wrong answer for what you put in this box. It's entirely meant for you to help track what it is that you're uploading.
Nate,
Leave the box.
Sorry, I just want to add the last part of what Nate said is what's really important, because when you come back, you want to know what you did when you did that commit. So, if you just changed the color of something, you may want to just say that, like you want it to be able to inform you, because you'll be surprised how you won't remember. Once you start coding a lot, you're going to need those kind of cues.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's entirely up to you. If you don't put anything helpful in here, if you don't document what it is that you're uploading and why you're uploading it, you're really just hurting yourself. But on the flip side of that, if this is just something that you're quickly throwing together, sometimes it doesn't warrant writing out a very long description. Green button, commit changes. And the page should refresh and you should be staring at those files that you just uploaded. You might see an images folder. If you do, that's great. There might be other CSS or HTML, depending on what you've added. Okay. Anybody having problems uploading those files? Not seeing what's up on my screen?
Okay, so to give you a heads up on my situation, I accidentally deleted my entire cohort file like 2 weeks ago. So I've been like slowly updating and catching up the codes. Probably this morning I was almost done, but this is literally where I stopped. So I'm doing that before I catch up to your list, and that's why I'm not there yet.
So just so you know, on the slide, I have a link to the code that or I thought I had a link here. Let me fix this. ESC5. Just so you know, I do have a link to the same code that I stole from Max, and that is here on the slide. So if you don't have code handy, feel free to just steal his.
That's exactly what I'm doing. Thank you.
Okay, cool. All right, so we've already kind of gone through this. We've dragged files in, we've committed some changes, and we've hit the commit changes button. And with that, I think that's a good spot to take a quick break, and then we're going to finish up talking about a little bit of the GitHub side, and then we're going to jump into using GitHub Desktop. So let's take a 20 and be back at 7. Does that sound right?
Yep.
All right, see everybody at 7. Let me resume. So how do I go and add tags?
Can you just go to the main, it says tags right there, but I don't think that's it. Go to the main page of one of your repos.
Okay.
And then you see where it says, this portfolio, yeah, click on that. And then you see where it says
Oh, topics.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
really cool.
Yep. And then I think if you go to settings for the image part of it, and you should see social. Yep, you just add an image, and sometimes they load quirky, like you have to crop them a certain way, but still, I try to add one in.
That's awesome. I've never seen that before. That's cool. Rain, you are here. Rain. I was snooping on your GitHub. Were you?
I'm literally continuing adding them as we speak, and I would like you to take a peek when I'm done. I'm almost done.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right.
How did you add an image again to that repository?
So going into let's see, go to my page. Going up here to settings.
Okay.
And then down on social preview.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Hey, Nate, did you see, I hope I'm saying this right, Palash's question? It's a good question.
Oh, yeah. So beginner-friendly lessons for DevOps. Depends on what you want to do. I don't have a great answer at the moment. Again, it depends on what you want to do. Like if you're interested in the workflow, like you're interested in learning how to take software and get it deployed onto the internet, then I can probably give you some good resources at the end of this week, just kind of depending on what you have seen that you like and what you want to learn more about. Alternatively, there's a completely you can dive off of the deep end, and I'll give you a resource for diving off the deep end into DevOps, or really just ops in general. Go and download Ubuntu and install it on a laptop that you have laying around. That would be your best beginner introduction into DevOps and learning how to manage computers. It'd be a good starting point. Also, come to office hours on Saturday. Come to office hours if you want to learn more about general DevOps topics. All right, so you continue. If you haven't yet uploaded all of those files to GitHub, feel free to keep doing that. I'm just going to kind of poke at a couple of the details of what we've covered. Again, when we create a repository, we click public. That just makes our code visible to anyone on the internet, which is really handy for me right now because I'm able to spot check and make sure that we're all in roughly the same place. And if you ever want to work on a repository with a friend, feel free to create and set it to private. You can always go back and change these settings. So if you've made it private and you want to open it up to the world, you can also do that. Again, these are under the settings. So if you go down in on your repo and click on settings and scroll down to the very bottom, right next to that delete button that we talked about earlier, there's also a change visibility. So you can flip back and forth between private and public. So it's not like you know, when you create a repository, you're always set in stone to one visibility setting or the other. And there's legitimate reasons for making your repository private. You know, if you're launching a new product and you're trying to go to market as quick as possible, and maybe you have a competitor that's trying to beat you, maybe hiding your code so your competitor isn't able to steal all of it, maybe that's a good idea. If you have certain algorithms that you think are proprietary, or if you know you have sensitive stuff, sensitive code that you're working on, maybe make that private. For the boot camp, for the whole program, there won't be a situation, I think, where you'll need to do that. But anyways, that's there. So why are we doing this? Well, first off, we're doing this because this is how we're going to deploy our code. I'm actually about to show you that you've already deployed your website. But the other really compelling reason to be uploading your code to Git, to do that drag and drop that I've shown you, the really compelling reason is because Macs are not the toughest computers out there. You can do things like spill Gatorade on your Mac. You can drop them getting in and out of the car. You can have someone steal it. All that sort of stuff. And if you haven't uploaded your code, if you haven't uploaded the stuff that you've been working on, you know, you can be behind now for weeks, if not months, depending on how much code you've written. So it's a really, 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 really good idea to upload your code. I can't tell you, I think, Latonia, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's always a student every cohort that nukes their code. Every time we ask, hey, did you upload it to GitHub? And more often than not, they haven't uploaded it to GitHub. So don't be that student. When you've got some code that you really, really care about, upload it to GitHub, drag and drop it over. Right now, we've got a repository for your portfolio, but if you want to make additional repositories for other programs that you write, you're more than welcome to do that.
I know for me, as soon as I'll start a project, I'll always hit the ground running. And at some point, a sense of panic will set in, and I'll be like, I have to set up a repo. Otherwise, you just don't know what's going to happen. So just make it a habit to do that. Even you can even set up your repo before you start your project if you know what you're working on. So,
right.
Oh, and can you check the chat, Nate? Because someone answered someone's questions, but I didn't know if you had something to add. And then someone mentioned Apple Care, which I actually don't know what that is.
So are there copyright protections for creators on GitHub? Yes, you can put a copyright in your repo. And in fact, let me show you an example of that. So let's go and just hit the explore button and go take a look at some random repository. This isn't a good one. Let's click on the private GPT one. Here we go. So you might have noticed that there's a readme.md. You might have noticed that file kind of popping up. In addition to the readme, which is a special file in Git, there's also a special file that you can create called license. And here, for example, they're using the Apache 2.0 license. Now, just because they put a file in there, does that mean that you can't go and steal the code and use it? No, I mean, the code is right there. Just because they put in a file called license doesn't mean that you have to respect the license. But technically, yes, there are protections for that you can put in place for your code if you want to be legal. Does that answer that question?
Someone's shaking their head, yes. And do you recommend any special ones? I remember looking them up because they can be kind of confusing. Is there like a standard one?
Yeah, good question. So what's kind of nice is that there is a list of trade-offs here. Honestly, there's the MIT license is kind of the least restrictive in my opinion, but I'm not a lawyer, so do whatever the F you want to. Public license, the WTFPL. I mean, I'm not qualified to be totally honest to answer this, but whenever I've been in doubt of which license to use, I always license my stuff under MIT. Other questions? Apple Care. I don't really know how that works because I don't know if they're buying laptops this year. You all get a stipend, I believe. And if it's really $79.99 for the year, I think that would be a great idea. The 3 years,
They
that's
just
kind of
updated it too.
okay.
It's unlimited repairs now with the service fee.
And it lasts up to 7 years. So after that 3 years, you can extend it up to 7 years for that Apple Care.
Unlimited repairs?
Unlimited repairs, you get as many as you want in a year. You still gotta pay whatever that Apple Care warranty price would be, but it's much.
There's a service fee.
but it's much better than paying what the out of warranty price would be, because out of warranty it started at $4.99. That's just what it is. So, and ain't no discounts at Apple at all. So I would say get it.
Yeah, if you spill water on
this is
this,
coming from a former Genius Bar member. Like I had this conversation with several people. So,
well,
if you
you
spill
heard it
water on
first.
this,
Yeah,
you might as well just buy a new laptop.
I spilled blue Gatorade. I spilled blue Gatorade on one of my laptops, and they replaced the keyboard, and it worked fine for several years, and I sold it. Well, we got somebody that has worked at the Genius Bar, so you're saying that we should get Apple Care?
yeah, on everything. Like it is. Anytime you buy an Apple product, you should absolutely get it. Especially now, because like before it was like super expensive, but now they make it a lot more affordable. You can pay it monthly. For phones, it's up to 5 years. For laptops, it's up to 7 years. You get unlimited repairs. So, and it's like compared to what you're gonna pay for the out of warranty price, it's gonna be ridiculous. It's definitely worth it, and nobody else is gonna fix it for that price.
Cool. Well, good to know. Question about, do developers have lawyers and retainers? The big companies do. Like, for example, Datadog, they have a department of obviously they have a legal department. So, when we pull in new libraries, there's somebody that's checking to make sure that the licenses, we can use those licenses for that software. So it's really where it gets scary, where it can get scary is startups, where you don't have folks that are paying attention to the licenses for the software that you use. So I don't know really how to answer that question. Big companies have teams. Smaller companies really don't have those. Have lawyers on retainer. Other questions that I've missed? Okay. All right. So yeah. Anyways, that's my sales pitch, and definitely get the Apple Care just to take care of your hardware, but you can't count on preserving the data. So make sure that you take advantage and upload things to Git. Now, do you need to create a repository every time you upload code? The answer is yes. You need to create a folder where your code is going to live on GitHub. Obviously, you can have as many folders as you want on your computer. And when you want to create a folder on your computer, you have to go and say, create new folder. It's the same thing on GitHub. if you want to back up your code, you have to go and create a place on GitHub to store that code. And in terminology, in the terminology there is repository. I think buying an external hard drive is a great idea. I think though that here's one of the benefits though of uploading your code to GitHub is that not only is it getting uploaded to someone else's computer, like for example with GitHub, they are backing your code up on hundreds, if not thousands, of hard drives. So there's a level of redundancy there that you're just not going to be able as a lay person, you're just not going to be able to replicate with hard drives. And I think GitHub is really purpose built for storing code. An external hard drive is, you can store pretty much anything on there, but GitHub is really just meant for code. And there's a lot of tools that make working with code really easy on GitHub that we're going to get into here in a bit. All right, that's my spiel about backing up your code. Please do it. Don't be that student that accidentally gets caught and nukes a folder and forgot to back up. Okay, so I told you that we were going to talk about two methods for uploading code to GitHub. The first one was the drag and drop. Really easy, really simple. No reason why. There's no excuse for you not to be able to do that. Now I'm going to show you the way that software developers do it, because the point and click thing kind of gets a little tiresome. There's a better way of doing it that we as software developers will use. And we need a program to do that. So we're going to go and install a program called GitHub Desktop. The link to that is in Zoom chat. Let me paste it. Go and grab that. And I don't know what everybody in class has. I'm pretty sure everybody has an Apple Silicon Mac. There's a little link down right below the download for Mac OS. There's a link for downloading the Apple Silicon Mac. If you click on that, you'll get the Apple Silicon build. Click that, open it. And then drag and drop that program into applications, just like any other Mac app. And then to open it, once you've downloaded and installed it, to open it, you can navigate to applications and look for a program called GitHub Desktop, or you can open up Spotlight, type in GitHub Desktop. Either one works. Okay. All right. Now I already had GitHub Desktop installed on my computer, so I tried to log out. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have the same screen that everybody has on their machines. Is everybody seeing something that looks similar to this, or is it presenting you with a login screen?
Login.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
walk-up screen, like sign in, sign up. A little bit
So does
different.
Okay. So I'm actually going to need to stop screen sharing. I'm going to need to have somebody drive while I kind of narrate. Does anybody mind Sharon. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
Hi.
hey.
It wants my computer to restart. Is that normal or?
It wants your computer to restart?
Yeah.
That is not normal.
Okay, thank you.
Are you able to open up GitHub Desktop, the program?
Yeah, I was able to sign in and everything, and it wants
Okay.
me to, it says move GitHub desktop to the applications folder.
Yeah.
Move and restart. Just say not now or?
No, actually, you can say yes to that. That's not saying restart your computer. That's saying restart the GitHub Desktop app. Yeah, feel free to do that. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So Genevieve, you got this pulled up. Thank you. Click on the sign in to github.com. So we're going to log in. Yep, let's authorize. Open in GitHub. Perfect. Great. Now, before you hit finish, switch that email drop down to your actual email. Perfect. Now hit finish. Great. Other folks, make sure that you switch that email box. Don't let it create that no reply email for you. You want to use your real email for this. Okay. And now you are looking at the right page. So let me take back screen share. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to log in. Preferences. You can switch it. Let me show you how to do that. I log back in. Okay. If you accidentally switched and used the wrong email, the way that you can fix that is by going into, let's see. Asma, if you click on preferences, so go up to the top left and hit preferences and go to Git, are you able to switch the email there? You can also share your screen if you want to get some extra eyes on it. All set? Okay, great. Go back to share my screen then. Cool. All right. So over here on the right, you should have a list of repositories. You probably have just one. So click on the one that says your username /username.github.io. And then you can, I thought that you could click on that. It doesn't look like you can. Click on the clone repository from the internet. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy down that repository that we've created and filter this list to just show the github.io, that repository that you just created, and hit clone. You should have a screen that looks something similar to mine. Is anybody not seeing what I've got on my screen?
Clicked the wrong one. I clicked the one on the top and now I don't know how to get back.
Let me stop sharing. You want to show me? So you've got desktop tutorial selected. So go back up and click on that picker up in the top left. So this right here, the current repository. Yep, click on that. And then this add. So we'll add a different one, clone repository. Yep. And then, yep, click that one in the center, clone. Perfect. Now you're on here. Just to make things easier so we don't trip ourselves up, go back and click on that picker one more time. And then right click on the desktop tutorial and hit remove. So this isn't going to remove it from GitHub. It will still be there, but we're just removing it from your computer so we don't accidentally get tripped up on it. Great. You're right where you need to be. Anybody else?
Thank you.
All right. All right, let me introduce you to this is the main page for working on your code. So what we've done is that code that we dragged and dropped onto github.com, we've now pulled down onto our machine. So technically we have two copies of your portfolio code. We have the code that you originally dragged and dropped from, right? That was on your computer. So that's the first copy. We've created a second copy now that we just cloned down. So clone is the terminology that we use with Git, where we've copied down or cloned down those files from github.com. So now technically we have two copies of your portfolio code on your computer. And when I say that we have two copies, let me show you what I mean. So when you're looking at the screen, if you click in the center here, show in Finder, you'll see that this is actually a different location on your computer than where you originally grabbed the files and dragged them onto GitHub. So if I'm looking at mine, and I'll switch over to this the list view, you can see down here at the bottom of the screen, I'm actually inside of a users, Nathan Evans, documents, GitHub. I'm in a totally different location on my computer than where I was when I first copied these files onto GitHub. So now I really have two sets of files on my computer. Is anybody confused yet? Because we've kind of got a situation where we have two sets of files on our computer, and we can potentially run into a situation where we make changes to one when we meant to make changes to the other. What we can do to help simplify this is we can delete the old files that we originally uploaded to GitHub and just use the files that we have cloned from GitHub. So I don't know where on your computer you originally dragged those files from GitHub, or sorry, from your machine up to GitHub. But if you would like, feel free to go and delete that copy of those files. For example, like my original files that I uploaded to GitHub, I put those inside of, or I had those files inside of this CIC C5. They were actually living inside of this D4 portfolio. I'm actually going to delete all of these files in here just so I don't accidentally make changes to them, either by having a VS Code window open or something like that. I'm going to actually just delete those files. And now I'm going to just use the files that I downloaded from GitHub. Well, so Natasha, we've actually already done that first step. Remember, we have already uploaded, and I can prove it. Well, everybody can prove it here by going to their repository on github.com. Going to my repositories and just clicking into. Yep. I'm just following through that train of thought with you too. So it's safe. It's totally safe to delete those original files because again, we have them backed up on GitHub. They're not going to go away. So it's safe for me to download them, or sorry, safe for me to delete, really to delete them completely from my computer, because at any time I can go and refetch them from GitHub. Any questions so far? It's a little bit, that's a little bit of, yes, exactly, Genevieve. Now I'm going to introduce you to how to navigate and get to your code. And it's exactly like you said. Instead of going to that old location where we had our portfolio code that we dragged and dropped onto GitHub, instead of going there in Finder, we're now going to get to our code through this program, GitHub Desktop. We're going to open it by clicking this Show in Finder. And also we'll use this Open in VS Code to give us a code editor in the right spot. But yeah, you're right on. I'm starting to change your developer workflow a little bit. You've kind of got some muscle memory, editing files a certain way. I'm gonna kind of shake that up a little bit.
Are
So to
we,
get, go ahead.
sorry, are we gonna use the terminal and the Visual Studio to upload the file directly from there?
We can.
Or if is I don't know. I never used this before, like this way. So
Yeah, yeah. Come to office hours and I'll show you how to use the terminal. You don't have to use this program. You can totally do everything through the terminal if you'd like.
okay.
In fact, this this application that you see right here really is just running commands in the terminal behind the screen, behind the scenes.
Got it.
All right.
Hey Nate, do you have your office hours in Calendly, or where do we find that information?
Good question. Let's talk about that closer to like Wednesday. I always try to push for Saturday, but if people can't make it, we can agree on a different time. But let's all come up with the time, maybe starting on Wednesday.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, cool. So to navigate to our files, we click the Show in Finder. Simple enough. Feel free to delete the old files if you want. I just want to make sure people don't get tripped up. Show in Finder will give you a finder where your code is now living. And then obviously you can get into VS Code by clicking on this Open in VS Code button. So those are kind of your two main tools. And then there's just a kind of a shortcut here. You can click this View on GitHub and it will open that page that we've seen already on GitHub. So these are kind of the three main buttons that you'll use to navigate and get to different places. If you're not sure that your GitHub, or sorry, if you're not sure that your VS Code is open in the correct spot, or your VS Code doesn't have the right files, feel free to just close out of VS Code completely. And then just re-click that Open in VS Code. And that will make sure that you're definitely working on those files that are that you downloaded from GitHub. All right. So how is this better than the drag and drop that we've already done with Git? Well, let me give you an example. So what we can do now is open up our code in VS Code. So let's pretend like we're going to make some kind of change to our portfolio. On my machine, because I plagiarized and totally stole my code from Max, I'm going to complete the plagiarization and replace his name with mine, because this is now my website. So open up your portfolio, make some kind of change to the index.html. This is Nathan Flicks. Are there any other traces of Max? Yes, there is. That's mine. Oh, Here's Max's email. That is now my email. Okay, and we'll leave the other stuff. All right, so I made some changes to my index.html. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Make some changes to your portfolio. Really do whatever you want. Just make some kind of change to it and hit save. All right. I'm going to click back and look at GitHub Desktop. Notice that my buttons disappeared, and now I'm looking at this green Christmas tree deal over here on the left. Git is now watching my files, and it's detecting every single change that I make, which is really nice as a programmer because I can see exactly what I've changed in this file since the last time I've uploaded to GitHub. Again, this is not Google Drive. This is not Dropbox. This is built for programmers. So these are all tools that are going to help you understand what changes you're making to your code. And if you make changes that you don't like, it's going to be able to help you walk those changes back and undo them. But either way, my screen has changed. Git has detected that I've made all of these edits to this file, replacing Max with my name. So now I have those same boxes that you saw before when you're doing the drag and drop. I have the short box and the long box. Again, you can completely ignore the long box and just type in the short box. But this is an opportunity for me to describe what the changes are that I made and why I made them. And then I'm going to say something like, I'm stealing code from Max's website and replacing his name with mine. So make some sort of change to your portfolio, save, come back over here, add a little description for what you changed. And then you can commit and push. So after you've hit the commit button, follow it up by clicking on that blue push origin button. And now we're back to square one. We've got those three buttons back on our screen. And just so you know, those buttons didn't really go away. They're still there. You can get to them by clicking on the repository up in the file bar. Open in VS Code, view on GitHub, show in Finder. Those buttons are still there. They just move whenever you make changes to your code. Is everybody able to successfully commit and push a change to their repo? All right. So if you're able to commit and push a change, I'm going to be able to see that. And the way that I can check if you were able to successfully push is I'm going to go and visit a couple people's GitHub portfolios, and I can see here that Genevieve, you just pushed a change 2 minutes ago, and it looks like you added main to an HTML comment. Very nice. I'm going to jump over to Kenny. Looks like you had a commit 2 minutes ago. I'm going to just click on that and see. And you updated the footer. Very cool. Shannon also making yourself comfortable inside of the title tag. Nice. I don't remember like a bug. Taylor, were you able to make a commit and push up? It looks like the one commit that we have is just the initial upload. Is Taylor here still? Oh, Taylor, you're on mute.
So I hit the commit to main, and I don't know what's going on.
So after you hit commit to main, do you see a blue bar in the center that says push to origin?
Yeah, and I clicked that too, but it didn't really seem like it did anything unless it popped up behind all these windows.
Oh, it literally just resolved.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think that push was exactly what you're missing. Nice, updated the README. Very cool. Nice job. Gosh. Four minutes ago, main edit is here. Very nice. Four minutes ago. Okay, sweet. 4 minutes ago. Cool. Asma, were you able to make a repository? I know you were able to because we were talking about it earlier.
May she sent a message saying that she DM'd you.
Oh, okay.
And when you have a chance, Ali, I hope I'm saying that right, has a question.
Yeah, go ahead. Is the push saving it overall? Is that what you mean by uploading files in case they get lost? Yeah, good question. So it's not until you hit the push that it actually ends up on GitHub. Let me show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to make another change on mine. Let's see, Nathan Evans. Well, I am a full stack JavaScript developer and kick-ass instructor, and good amount for instructor. All right, then let's talk about when this actually ends up on GitHub. So let me pull open GitHub over here on the side. Oh, repository open, view on GitHub. Here we go. All right, so notice here that the last commit, the last code that I pushed up was about 6 minutes ago. So obviously this still is just on my machine. It hasn't made it up to GitHub. Downgrading my confidence as instructor. All right, so I'll hit commit, taking my change and bundling it up. I'll refresh over here. Notice still no code up here on GitHub. It's not until I actually push, and then you see the spinner up there. It's not until I actually push that the code ends up getting sent to GitHub. So it's a two-step process. It's commit and then push. Behind the scenes, committing is really taking a snapshot on your machine, and your machine can have tons of these snapshots, but it's not until you've taken those commits and hit that push button. It's not until you've pushed that those actually get synced and saved on GitHub? Great question. And I actually had a little program that I was going to use to play a game really quick. I just need to debug this for 1 second, understand why it is that my code is not doing what I want it to do. Here's the reason why. They've changed the link format. There we go. Let's try that. All right, so we're gonna play a game really quick. I want everybody to, this is just to get more practice committing and pushing, because this kind of needs to become a muscle memory as you're developing, and you need to feel comfortable backing your software up to GitHub. So real quick, I just want to play a game and have everyone upload the word Apple on their index.html. So somewhere in your index.html on your website, put the word Apple and then commit and push.
Can you say that word one more time?
Apple.
Oh, Apple.
Oh, is my code checking for lowercase Apple? It is. That will work, Latonia. Throwing a curveball at me.
Can't you make it case insensitive?
Yeah, I totally can. I was just checking to see if I did that in the code, and it looks like I did.
Oh, okay.
Done.
Very nice. Oh, they dropped the blob too. Okay, I keep getting tripped up. My code is not picking this up. There we go. Okay, now we've got some people I can see. So I can't tell who came in first place, unfortunately, but I can tell all of the folks that have been able to do it. So very nice. Taylor, Monty, Corwin, Deep.
Is that Python you running in the back?
It is. Yep, I got a little Python script here.
That's cool. That's the first language I learned a little bit.
Yeah, I like Python a lot. Python is pretty sweet.
I used it for a Raspberry Pi to make like little projects in the house.
Nice.
Nothing much after that.
Well, I usually try to get people to buy Raspberry Pis. I usually give a sales pitch for those during office hours. You should come and show off your Raspberry Pi project.
I mean, I still have my Raspberry Pi, but I mean, definitely will come to, you know, I have the 3B plus.
Nice.
Yeah, it was not a bad gig.
Yeah, I actually have I have one here. I was using as a little wall board for showing some graphs.
I'm gonna use mine to have as an ad blocker soon.
Oh, as a Pi hole?
Yeah.
Cool.
I just never got a chance to do it.
So I'm gonna pick on a couple people. Genevieve, were you able to?
I commented it out.
Oh, okay. So you made the change and then you've already undone it?
No, like I put it in a comment. I made it green.
Oh, cool.
I just didn't want to throw it anywhere. I didn't want.
Yeah, that's
I didn't want to
fair.
mess it up and then not be able to find it later.
I'm just not sure why my script wasn't able to pick it up, but either way.
Oh, it didn't pick it up in the comment?
Yeah, it's strange. I'm pulling the file wholesale and then,
Oh, that was clever that she did it that way.
Can you check mine just to make sure? I feel like I'm picking out what you're putting down. But then again, I'm
okay,
probably not.
let me check.
And if I'm wrong, don't be hard on me. I know you're like, you're really good at this. Please.
No, I'm just an okay instructor. You saw me
You are
download my
great.
rating.
And I love the way you're like, look at, I could look at the code and tell if you're done. That's true coding right there.
Can you share your screen? Because I don't see the commits yet.
Okay. All right. So I'm probably doing it wrong, but I could take accountability for that. All right.
I don't think you're doing it wrong. I think, yeah, so you have made the change in the file. You've hit save. So show me.
I
GitHub
didn't hit
desktop.
save. I did not hit save, but I mean, it looks
Okay.
like it's been saved, but I didn't control S, command S. I'm not going to lie.
So show me GitHub desktop, the GitHub desktop program.
Okay. It's somewhere. Actually, it's already up. Hold on 1 second. I have so many screens up. Okay, here we are.
Oh, cool. So there it is. So now all we need to do is push this change up. So go down to the bottom left, type in a little message, add an apple or something. Use that top box. The bottom one is for people that like to write essays. Just use
Oh, okay.
that box.
Oh, okay.
Cool. And then hit commit. And
Okay.
again, just committing, all that's going to do is package it up on your machine. We still need to save it and push it up. The other thing too is I see you made this change to the style.css.
Yeah, earlier. Yeah.
So let's grab that too. Check that box to make sure that we so this little check. There you
Okay.
go. That means we're going to grab that in our commit. So yep, go ahead, give us another message real quick. Cool. And then yep, commit. All right. Now let's
Oh,
hit
push
that.
origin. Okay.
Yep, exactly.
Awesome.
And now if you click on this view on GitHub, you
Okay.
should be able to look on the GitHub website and we should
Hold on a
see
second.
that
Yeah, let
you
go.
you just made a commit right there just now.
Mhm.
So your changes are live. Great job.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Right. Wow,
So
y'all really like dark mode. Okay.
I'm sorry. What'd you say?
Nothing, just realizing everybody is really into having preserving their retinas.
Oh,
What were y'all saying?
I wanted to ask if it read it because I was curious if you need to have spaces around the word apple.
Why my Python script isn't picking up? I don't know. It was. Does anybody mind while Tonya and I debug some Python? And while we all debug some Python. So the issue here is that oh, there it is. Now it just started working. Says that's found.
It must have just been the push. It just needed to get up there, maybe.
Yeah, and I think GitHub also does like a little bit of caching too. Like it could have been that. And then Rain, the reason why it's not picking up yours is because you made the change to Apple inside of a file called google.html. Which isn't a big deal, but my script is just looking for these changes in index.html. Okay. Next, change I want you to do one more commit and push for the game. And this time I'll actually be paying attention so I can hand out awards. Somewhere in your index.html, make a commit and push. I want you to put the word orange. Commit and push the word orange to your index.html.
Done.
Was that Shannon or did somebody say it who's not Shannon?
I got not founds for everybody so far.
They said it did it already. I don't know.
Again, now this could be my script, but man, come on, caching. So let's see. Orange just now. Huh. Yeah, you certainly pushed a minute ago. I'll have to go and compare timestamps for everyone's commits in order to find out who pushed first. I would have thought that my script would pick it up. Anyways, guess my Python's not good enough. I don't know why this didn't pick it up.
Hey,
Wrong
someone had
again,
a
this is-
question about how your script is working.
It's not working is the secret here. Yeah, all it's doing is it's making HTTP requests. It's looping through everybody's repo and trying to see if this needle is in the haystack. It's clearly not working very well. I think what's happening is I'm actually getting rate limited by GitHub now, and it's not going to return any responses. So anyways, that was the fun game. So I think a lot of people were able to make those edits. Feel free to thank you all for indulging me with my terrible Python. Feel free to take out orange and apple or whatever you've uploaded to your website. Okay.
Hey Nate, is it okay if I just say a word about like naming the files?
Absolutely, please.
Just because I noticed someone said that they had a HTML file that wasn't named index. Sometimes the browser will compensate for you if it's not named index.html, but you really want it to be named index.html because that's specifically what it's looking for. So I just wanted to put that out there as like a heads up. Generally, you want to name your HTML files index, and then you can name your style sheets whatever you want. Even your JavaScript files, you can name them whatever you want, but specifically your index file, for it to look for that file, it has to have that name. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, thanks for catching that. The index.html is special. And if you don't have an index.html, like Tony's pointing out, you can hack around it by visiting specifically that in the browser. But one of the things that the browser is programmed to do when it visits a URL is it looks for a file.index.html. And if it's not there, yeah, your website won't appear. Great call. All right, so again, the workflow that I'm trying to shift people towards is as you're working on these projects, as you're working on this code, open up VS Code using the GitHub desktop app, make changes, commit and push. There's a couple of other really cool things that that you can do with GitHub that I'm going to talk about briefly. But again, we're trying to build up sort of a muscle memory, and there's a lot of debate about how often to do commits. Like for example, if I'm getting into the flow and I'm really hacking away on my project, like let's say I get in here and I'm doing something like I'm going to rework like a class or something, and I decide that this is going to be like a media, and I'm going to go into styles and start a class for media, and I do a bunch of testing, and I'm really in the zone, and I just want to program. That's totally fine. Just do what you're going to do. Just remember to take a break every once in a while, come back to GitHub desktop and make a commit and push it. So starting to work on media. And it can be just as quick as that, you know, hopping over to GitHub desktop, making a commit, pushing it. You can go for as long as you want. There's really no hard, fast rule. Some people like to do a little bit of work, make commits and push. Some people like to, like I was just describing, stay in the flow, get a chunk of work done, and then, you know, before they go to grab a drink of water or step away from the computer, do a quick push to GitHub.
Nate, there's a question.
And then, yeah, so commit, some of this terminology is here on the slides if you want to check out, because again, there's a lot of GitHub specific terminology I've thrown at you, like repository, pushing, origin, commit, all that sort of stuff. But commit really just means take all the changes on your computer, all of the edits that you've made, and bundle them together. It's like a little snapshot that Git will package together for you. Then you take all of those commits and push them up. Hopefully that's good enough for layman terms. I guess another analogy would be like Time Machine for Mac. You know, whenever you're backing up your Mac, you're never doing a full copy. You're just doing the delta or the difference between files from one snapshot to another, because it would be really space prohibitive for you to make 500 gigabyte backups of your computer every time, right? Instead, you make one 500 gigabyte backup or whatever size your computer is at, and then you take backups of each of the changes instead of, you know, these huge backups. That's the same thing that commits are. They're little snapshots, they're little deltas, they're little differences, the changes that you're making. We already did the fun little exercise. All right. Something else that you can do that is really handy is you can work on other people's code. And to do that, you just open up GitHub Desktop. You don't have to do any of this on your machine. You can just sit back and watch. Alternatively, you can follow along if you like. But if I wanted to work on, say, well, I definitely am going to work on HackUpState CIC C5 a lot because I want to steal a bunch of Max's code. So what I may decide to do is go up here to what I like to call the repo picker, the repository picker. Up here in the top left of the GitHub desktop window, you can click on that, and under this drop down, hit add and clone repository, just like we've seen before. You get the same screen. But instead of cloning one of your repositories, you can go over to URL. So this will let you paste in a URL for a GitHub repo. And I grab that, come over here. So this is a repository on GitHub that I want to clone down and start working on my computer. So I can paste that in here, hit clone. And now if I hit open in VS Code, you'll see that I have a copy now of all of the cohort 5 code. So that's how you can go through GitHub Desktop and download other people's code. I can do the same thing for other people's projects. So for example, I'm going to go steal Danielle's code. I'm going to take the link to Danielle's code. I'm going to go up here to the repo picker, clone a repository, slap in the URL, hit clone, open in VS Code. Now I can start working on Danielle's code. It's that easy. Now, go ahead.
Sorry, do they get a notification that their code has been copied?
Good question. No, no, they do not. Because it's public, anybody can clone down code. Anybody can pull down the code that you're working on. The big question is, can anybody push code? Like, how frustrating would it be if all of a sudden I started changing Danielle's code out from underneath? So like, for example, if I was here and I was like, Danny Carmen, a newbie in coding. I want to say it's not Danny Carmen anymore. This is going to be Nathan Evans. Go over here. This is mine now. And I hit commit to main and I push. I'm going to get this screen asking me if I want to fork the repository. And the reason why is because I don't have permission, because Danny didn't invite me to work on this project. I'm going to have the option to what's known as forking the repository, which means taking this repository and making a complete copy of it. And not going to get into that because it kind of gets a little complicated and it's a bit unnecessary at this point. But all of this to say that just because you can copy someone's code, you can go up here into the repo picker and just because you can go up here and clone down somebody's code does not give you the permission to upload it. You will not be able to do that unless they add you and allow you to do it. Other questions, thoughts?
So, you know how you go on if you open in Visual Studio, like any code, you make changes, right? And then on the side, where the search bar is, there's 2 dots, links here, main, whatever it's called, the source.
Yeah, this.
And then I think if you just type a message here and commit, can you do like from there, right? And just commit changes. Is that the same thing I was saying before?
So you can do all of that from within VS Code, yes. So notice how it gives you kind of a preview here. This is that same sort of screen that you would see over on VS Code. I think you can. I've actually never used the Git integration in VS Code. Feel free to try.
The key token, and then like, something like that. I did it before, but I think the other way is much better through the GitHub app.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're gonna need to set up some credentials, and that's one of the things that the GitHub desktop app does really well for you is it logs you into GitHub, and so you can totally do it through here. I would probably stick with the GitHub desktop if it were me, but you do you.
I would do that like for now. Fuck,
Sure. Right, so that's working on I think that's going to be a good stopping point for tonight. So we've talked about GitHub, and we talked about the 2 different ways for uploading files. You can go really bare bones and drag and drop stuff. Alternatively, you can use GitHub Desktop to make changes, which is in every way better than just dragging and dropping stuff onto github.com. So I would encourage you to practice making changes through GitHub. And between now and tomorrow, if you want to practice uploading other code that you have, so creating other repositories and uploading any other code that you might have, I'd encourage you to try that and to practice. But otherwise, we've already made progress tonight on deploying our website. So great job for everybody that's followed along, and I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you keeping that this spreadsheet updated and getting all the links up here. Tomorrow we're going to talk about deploying our website, and if time permits, we might talk about buying a domain name. Please don't jump the gun and buy a domain name yet. Please wait until we get to that. That's it for tonight. Anybody have any questions before we break? All right, thank you very much, and have a great evening, and see everybody tomorrow for more DevOps.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Don't forget to stop your recording, Nate. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yep. See you, everybody.